I'm Gregor Thompson, I'm a philosopher and a writer, and I know what the meaning of life is. Welcome to The Struggle. This episode is brought to you by the Struggle for Meaning newsletter. This is a weekly email newsletter that I send out for free every Sunday, a short article concerning the art of embracing struggle. I also send out tips, strategies, recommendations such as movies, music, podcasts and recipes to help along the way. To sign up completely for free, go to gregorthompson.com, the link will be in the show notes, confirm your subscription and make sure you check your spam folder for your welcome newsletter and add me to your contacts to continue to receive it in your inbox for free. And that's it. You're on your way to struggling more and being more productive, healthy and motivated. Now, let's get on with the struggle. This is episode 6 of The Struggle with me, Gregor Thompson. And for this episode, I want to address what stage the podcast is at right now, which depending on your perspective could make for depressing viewing or listening. But it's all for a larger point. I'm going to pull up on screen some screenshots I took a few days ago, which I'll describe for those of you who are listening. The first is of the first 5 episodes of The Struggle on my YouTube channel. And as those of you who are watching can see, the highest views I've had so far is 68. It's not exactly a groundbreaking figure. And here's another screenshot showing my subscriber count, which stands at 74. And here's another screenshot of the amount of people who have subscribed to my weekly email newsletter, which stands at an astronomical 30. Now, I'll have been writing my weekly email newsletter for 100 weeks when this episode comes out. Almost 2 years of my life, and all for 30 subscribers, the majority of which are friends and family, which of course I'm lucky enough to have. And also, just FYI, I'm not making a penny from any of this content right now. So why am I highlighting how few views, subscribers, support, and revenue I have? It's to make a point about passion. You see, the internet and pop psychology and philosophy will tell you to follow your passion. The problem with this goal is that most people would describe passion as an intense enthusiasm for something. And I'm sorry, you're just not going to find anything that you're always intensely enthusiastic about. I'm not always intensely enthusiastic about recording this podcast, but I'm always driven to record it. So instead of following your passion, you should follow your drive. But how do you know what your drive is? The drive is whatever you're willing to do for years without any external reward or validation. I am more than willing to work for hours every week for no money because I have faith in what I am producing. It is meaningful to me and I believe it will be meaningful to others, but I cannot expect anyone to take notice after just 5 weeks. I have to be willing to put in the work for 5 years. The reason most people fail at some fundamental ambition is simply because they stop. They are disheartened by their views or income or progress after just a few months. Investor, entrepreneur and author Alex Hormozi said, "The world belongs to those who can keep doing without seeing the result of their doing." And that brings me to the second reason I am highlighting my subscriber and view count. I want to prove a point over the course of this podcast. You see, what we rarely identify about successful people is their journey to success. We overuse the term overnight success, and it discourages a lot of people because they then see their heroes as lucky or super talented or in the right place at the right time. And so they then don't even try to do something great and meaningful. It might sound arrogant to say that people will take notice of this podcast, but I truly believe in what I'm doing and that it will take off. And because I'm predicting this, it keeps me accountable and even more driven just so I can prove this point. But even if the podcast doesn't take off, I will always have a meaningful pursuit that I have faith in. So I want to show that this podcast will never be an overnight success, because in a few months or a few years, I will record more episodes relating back to this, episode 6. I will remind you of the views and subscriber count I had at this moment, and I will then update you on what the views and subscriber count are at that time, and whether I'm making any money from the content, just to show how long and how many hours of work it took for me to see any positive change. Now, I said at the start that these numbers could be depressing viewing depending on your perspective, but I see it as incredibly motivating, as it will make one hell of a story. I will say one day back in 2024 when I first started to struggle that I was only getting 68 views. I only had 74 subscribers and I wasn't making any money. And that's a much more motivating story than an overnight success. So here's what to take away from this. No one ever achieved anything meaningful overnight. Those who can keep struggling and following their drive without seeing any reward or validation, and who are willing to do that for years, are the ones who will accomplish something meaningful. And don't see the early results of your labor as disheartening. The first few years may only bring mediocre results, but it will make one hell of a story when everyone eventually takes notice. The answer lies in the struggle, so keep on struggling. Just a few more things before you take off. First, thank you for watching. It genuinely means a lot to see people viewing the content. And second, if you are enjoying the content, please subscribe. That's the best way you can support the podcast. Now, I'll see you next week.